extensive parva that comes next is Virata. The Pandavas arriving in the dominions of Virata saw in the cemetery on the outskirts of the city a large cemetery, whereupon they kept their weapons. Here has been recited their entry into the city and their stay there in disguise. Then the slaying of Bhima of the wicked Kichaka, who, senseless with lust, had sought Draupadi. The appointment by Prince Duryodhana of clever spies, and they dispatched all the sides for tracing the Pandavas. The failure of these to discover the mighty sons of Pandu, the first seizure of Virata's kind by Trigartas, and the terrific battle that ensued, and the capture of Virata by the enemy and his rescue by Bhimasena. The release also of the Kain by Pandava, Bhima, and the seizure of Virata's Kain again by the Kurus, in the defeat in the battle of all the Kurus by single-handed Arjuna, the release of King's Kain, the bestowal by Virata of his daughter Uttara for Arjuna's acceptance on behalf of his son by Subhadra, Abhimanyu, the destroyer of foes. These are the contents of this extensive fourth parva, the Virata. The great Rishi Vyasa has composed in these 67 sections. The number of slokas is 2050. Okay, in this, we also get a beautiful the reason why we celebrate Vijayadashami, because Arjuna on that day won the Kuru army because they left the weapons on the cemetery. We also take semi in our hands and give it to our elders and seek their blessings. Semi semayate papam semi satruvinasini. So this sloka, what we recite, of course, I recited only half of it. And there is a connection between Arjuna and also Rama. Arjunasya Dhanurdhari Ramasya Priyadarshini. That is the last two lines. So these sloka we recite and then give it in the hands of elders and seek their blessings. That is specifically seen in Andhra Pradesh. In Telangana, I have a different system. Of course, they do use that also. I don't know about the other states. Possibly it is there in Tamil Nadu also. I'm not sure about it. Anyway, this is about in North India, it's altogether a different culture. Okay. Then the fifth parva, the contents, is known as Udyoga. While the Pandavas, desirous of victory, were residing in the place called Upaplavya, Duryodhana and Arjuna both went to the same time to Vasudeva and said, "You should render us assistance in this war." The high souled Krishna, upon these words uttered, replied, "O ye, first of men, a counselor in myself who will not fight, and one Akshoni of troops, which of these I shall give it to which of you?" Blind to his own interest, the foolish Duryodhana asked for the troops, while Arjuna solicited Krishna as an unfighting counselor. Then is described how when the king of Madra was coming for the assistance of Pandavas, Duryodhana, having deceived him on the way by the presents and hospitality, induced him to grant a boon and then solicited his assistance in the battle. How Shalya, having passed his word to Duryodhana, went on to Pandavas and consoled them by reciting the history of Indra's victory over Vrita. Then comes the dispatch of Pandavas of their Purohita to the Kauravas. Actually, it is not their priest, but it is the priest of Drupada Maharaja, because their priest is Dhaumya. He would not go there. Then comes the dispatch of Pandavas. Okay, then this is how described. Um, the king Dhritarashtra of great prowess, having heard the word of Purohita of the Pandavas and the story of Indra's victory, decided upon sending his um, charioteer and counselor Sanjaya as an envy to Pandavas from the desire of peace. Here has been described as sleeplessness of Dhritarashtra from anxiety upon hearing all about the Pandavas and their friends, Vasudeva and others. It was the occasion that Vidura addressed the wise king Dhritarashtra, various counsels that were full of wisdom, and it was here also that sage Sanasjata recited the anxious and sorrowing monarch the excellent truths of spiritual philosophy. It's called Sanasujatiyam. And Vidura Niti and Sanasujatiyam are two things that comes in this parva. On the next morning, Sanjaya spoke in the court of the king Dhritarashtra of the identity of Vasudeva and Arjuna because they are Nara Narayana, they cannot be defeated. That's what he clearly says. It was then that illustrious Krishna, moved by kindness and desire for peace, went himself to the Kaurava capital Hastinapura for bringing about peace. Then comes rejection by Prince Duryodhana of the embassy of Krishna, who had come to solicit peace for the benefit of both parties. Here has been recited the story of Dambodhava, then the story of high-souled Matali search for a husband for his daughter, then the history of great sage Galava, then the story of the training of the disciple of the son of Vidula, then the exhibition by Krishna before the assembled Rajas his yoga powers, and upon learning the evil counsels of Duryodhana and Karna, then Krishna's taking Karna in his chariot and tending him advice, tendering him to him of advice, and Karna's rejection of the same from pride. Then the return of Krishna, the chased here of enemies from Hastinapura to Upaplavya, and his narration to the Pandavas, all that had happened. It was then that the oppressor of force, the Pandavas, having heard all the and consulted properly with each other, made the preparations for war. Then comes a march from Hastinapura for battle of foot soldiers, horses, charioteers, of and of elephants. The tale of the troops by both parties, then dispatch of by the prince Duryodhana of Uluka, son of Shekuni, as envy to Pandavas on the day previous to the battle. Then are the tale of charities of different classes. Then the story of Amba. All has been described in fifth parva called Udyoga of Bharata, abounding with incidents appertaining to war and peace. O ye aesthetics of the great Vyasa has composed 186 sections of this parva. The number of slokas also composed in this by the great Rishi is 6,698. Then is recited by then is recited the Bhisma Parva, replete with wonderful incidents. This has been narrated by Sanjaya. Formation of the region known as Jambu, which is Asia. Here has been described great depression of Yudhishthira army and the fierce fight for 10 successive days in this high-souled Vasudeva, by reasons based on philosophy and final release, drove away Arjuna's compunction springing from latter's regard for his kindred. In this magnanimous in this the magnanimous Krishna, attentive to the welfare of Yudhishthira, seeing the loss inflicted on Pandava's army, descended swiftly from his chariot himself and ran with dauntless breast, his driving whip in hand, to effect the death of Bhishma. In this, Krishna also smote with piercing towards Arjuna, the bearer of Gandiva, and foremost in the battle among all wielders of weapons. In this, the foremost of bowmen Arjuna, placing Sikandi before him and piercing Bhishma, the sharpest arrows fell from his chariot. In this, Bhishma lay stretched on his bed of arrows. This extensive parva is known as the sixth in the Bharata. In this has been composed in 117 sections. The number of slokas is 5,884, as told by Vyasa, conversant with the Vedas. Then is recited the powerful, wonderful parva called Drona, full of incidents. First comes the installation of Drona, the commander of army, who is the great instructor of arms. Then they go to make made by the great master of weapons of seizing the wise Yudhishthira in the battle to please Duryodhana. And then the retreat of Arjuna from the field before the Samsaptakas. Then the overthrow of Bhagadatta like the second Indra in the field with the elephant Supratika by Arjuna. Then the death of hero Abhimanyu in his teens, alone in this unsupported at the hands of many Maharthas, including Jayadratha. Then, after the death of Abhimanyu, the destruction of Arjuna, destruction by Arjuna in the battle of seven Akshohinis of troops, and then of Jayadratha, and then the entry by Bhima of mighty arms, by that foremost warriors in chariot, Satyaki, into the Kaurava ranks, impenetrable even to the gods, in search of Arjuna in obedience to the orders of Yudhishthira and the destruction of remnant of other Samsaptakas. In the Drona Parva, death of Alambusha, of Satayus, of Jalasandha, of Somadatta, of Virata, of the great warrior in in chariot, Drupada, and of Ghatotkaja and others. In this Parva, Ashwatthama, excited beyond measure after the fall of his father in battle, discharged a terrible weapon, Narayana. Then is the glory of Rudra in connection with the burning of the three cities. Then the arrival of Vyasa and the recital by him the glory of Krishna and Arjuna. This is the seventh great Parva of Bharata, in which all the heroic chiefs, princes are mentioned here, sent their account. The number of sections in this is 170. Number of slokas are composed in Drona Parva by Rishi Vyasa, the son of Parasara and the possessor of the true knowledge after much meditation, is 8,909. Then comes the most wonderful Parva called Karna. This is narrated the appointment of wise King Madra as Karna's charioteer. Then is a history in, of the fall of Asura Tripura. Then the application of each other by Karna and Shalya of harsh words on their setting out for field. Then the story of this swan and the crow recited in insulting allusion by Shalya. Then the death of Pandya at the hands of high-souled Ashwathaman. Then the death of Dandasena. Then that of Darda. Then the Yudhishthira's imminent risk in the single combat with Karna in the presence of all warriors. And then the mutual wrath of Yudhishthira and Arjuna. Then Krishna's pacification of Arjuna in this parva, Bhima, in fulfillment of his vow, having ripped open Dushasana's breast in the battle, drank the blood of his heart. Then Arjuna slew the great Karna in the single combat. Readers of this Bharata call this eighth parva. The number of sections in this is 69, and number of slokas is 4,964. Then has been recited wonderful parva called Shalya. After the great warriors have been slain, the king Madra became the leader of Kaurava army. The encounters one after another of charioteers who has been described. Then comes fall of great Shalya in the hands of Yudhishthira, the just. Here is the death of Shakuni in the battle of hands in the hands of Sahadeva. Upon only a small remnant of troops remaining alive after the immense slaughter, Duryodhana went to the lake Dvaipa in Hridam, and creating himself room within its waters, lay stretched there for some time. Then is narrated to the receipt for the intelligence of Bhima from the fowlers. Then it is narrated how, moved by the insulting speeches of the intelligent Yudhishthira, Duryodhana, unable to bear affronts, came out of the waters. Then comes encounter with clubs. Then is described by sacredness of Saraswati. Then the progress of encounter with clubs. Sorry, Duryodhana, upon the arrival, intelligent Duryodhana, unable to bear affronts, come out of waters. Then comes the encounter with clubs between Duryodhana and Bhima. Then the arrival at the time of such encounter of Balarama. This then is described as sacredness of Saraswati. Then the progress of the encounters with club. Then the fracture of Duryodhana's thighs in battle by Bhima with a terrific hurl of his mace. All this has been described in the wonderful ninth Parva. In this, number of sections is 59, and number of slokas composed by great Vyasa, the spreader of fame of Kauravas, is 3,220. Then I shall describe the Parva called Sauptika of frightful incidents of the Pandavas having gone away. The mighty charioteers Kritavarma, Kripa, son of Drona, came to the field in the battle. Evening saw the king Duryodhana lying on the ground, his thighs broken, himself covered with blood. The great charioteer, the son of Drona, terrible wrath, owed without killing all the Panchalas, including Drishtadyumna and the Pandavas, and also with their allies. I will not take off armor. Having spoken these words, the three charioteers, leaving Duryodhana's side, entered the great forest just as sun was setting. While sitting under the large banyan tree, in the night, they saw an owl killing numerous crows one after another. Killing numerous crows one after another. The sight of this, Aswadaman, his heart filled with rage at the thought of his father's fate, resolved to sleep, slumbering Panchalas, and wending to the gate of the camp, he saw a Rakshasa of frightful visage, his head reaching to the very heavens, guarding the entrance. That is none but Lord Shiva. And seeing the Rakshasa obstructing his all weapons, son of Drona speedily pacified and worshipped the three-eyed Rudra. Because he Lord Shiva is the lord of all Rakshasas and demons. So they worship him. So he wanted to pacify Lord Shiva. And also he's a devotee of Lord Shiva. So it is easy to control these Rakshasas when you worship Lord Shiva. And then accompanied by Kritavarman Kripa slew all the sons of Drona's son speedily pacified by the worship of three-eyed Rudra, and then he accompanied by Kritavarman Kripa slew all the sons of Draupadi and all Panchalas with Drishta, Jimna and others together with their relatives slumbering unsuspectingly in the night. All perished on a fatal night except five Pandavas, great warrior Satyaki, those escaped owing to Krishna's counsel. Then the chariot of Drishta brought this news to Pandavas of the slaughter of slumbering Panchalas by the son of Drona. Then Draupadi, distressed at the death of her sons and brothers and father, sat before her lords, resolved to kill herself by fasting. Then Bhima, after a terrible prowess, moved by the words of Draupadi, resolved to please her, and speedily taking up his mace, followed in the wrath the son of his preceptor in arms, son of the Drona, from fear of Bhimasena, impelled by the fates, moved by also moved by anger, discharged a celestial weapon, saying that this is for the destruction of all Pandavas. Then Krishna saying, "This shall not be." Neutralized Aswadhaman's speech. Then Arjuna neutralized that weapon by one of his own. Seeing the wicked Aswadhama's destructive intention, Dvaipayana and Krishna pronounced curses on him, which later returned. Pandava then deprived the mighty warrior in chariot Aswathaman of his jewel on his head and became exceedingly glad, boastful of their success, made it present to sorrowing Draupadi. This is 10th Parva Sauptika. Is recited. The great sage Vyasa has composed this in 18 sections. Number of slokas composed by the reciter of sacred truths is 870. This parva has been put together by great Rishi. The two parvas, Sautvika and Aishika. Aishika is the weapon that Asudama used. After this has been recited, highly pathetic parva called Sri. Dhritarashtra, prophetic eye, afflicted at the death of his children, moved by enmity towards Bhima, broke into a piece of statue of hard iron deftly placed before him by Krishna. Then Vidura, removing the distrust of Dhritarashtra affection for worldly things by reasons pointing the final release, consoled that wise monarch that has been described the vending of distressed Dhritarashtra, accompanied by the ladies of the house to the field of battle of the Kauravas. Here follows a pathetic wailings of the wives of the slain heroes, the wrath of Gandhari and Dhritarashtra, and the loss of their consciousness. Then the Kshatriya ladies who saw their heroes, their unreturning sons, brothers, fathers lying dead on the field. The pacification by Krishna of the wrath of Gandhari, distressed at the death of her sons and grandsons, and the cremation of the bodies of the deceased Rajas with due rites by the monarch Yudhishthira of the great wisdom, and foremost also of all virtuous men. Thereupon the presentation of water at the mains of the deceased princess, having commenced the story of Kunti's acknowledgement of Karna as her son, born in secret. Those have been described by the great Rishi Vyasa in the very highly pathetic 11th Parva. Its pursual moved every feeling heart with sorrow and even draws tears from their eyes. The number of sections composed is 27. The number of slokas 775. The 12th comes Shanti Parva, in which increased understanding, in which it is related to despondency of Yudhishthira and having slain his father's brothers, sons, maternal uncles, and matrimonial relations. In this Parva is described how, from his bed of arrows, Bhishma expounded various systems of duties worth the study of kings desirous of knowledge. This Parva expounded the duties of relative to emergencies with full indications of time and reasons. By understanding these, person attains consummate knowledge. The mysteries and also of final emancipation have been expatiated upon. This is 12th Parva, the favorite of the wise. It consists of 339 sections, contains 14,732 slokas. Next in order is Anushasana Parva. It is described how Yudhishthira, the king of Kurus, was reconciled himself on hearing a exposition of the duties by Bhisma, the son of Bhagirathi. The Parva treats rules in details of dharma, artha, the rules of charity and its merits, the qualification of it duns. It is supreme right regarding gifts. The Parva is also describes ceremonials of individuals' duty, rules of conduct, matchless merit of truth. This Parva shows the great merit of Brahmanas and kind, unravels the mysteries of duties in relations of to time and place. These are embodied in this excellent parva called Anusasana. Varied incidents in this has been described the ascension of Bhishma to heaven. This is a 13th parva which has laid down accurately the various duties of men. Number of sections is 146. The number of slokas is 8,000. Then comes the parva Ashwamedika. In this excellent story of Samrata and Maruta, this is described this is described by discovery of golden treasures by Pandavas and the birth of Parikshit, who has been revived by Krishna after having been burnt by celestial weapon of Shwadhaman. The battles of Arjuna, the sons of Pandu, while following the sacrificial horse let loose with various princes who in wrath seized it. This is shown as the great risk of Arjuna, his encounter with Babruwahana, the son of Chitrangada, by Arjuna, the appointed daughter of chief of Manipura. Then the story of mongoose during the performance of heart sacrifice. This is the most wonderful parva called Ashramedika. The number of sections is 103. Number of slokas composed by Vyasa of true knowledge is 3,320. Then comes the 15th parva called Ashramavasika. In this, Dhritarashtra abdicating the kingdom and accompanied by Gandhari, Vidura went to woods, seeing the various uh, seeing the virtuous Prita also ever engaging in cherishing her superiors, leaving the court of her sons followed the old couple in this is described as wonderful meeting through kindness of Vyasa, the king Dhritarashtra with the spirits of the slain children, grandchildren, and other princes returned from other world. Then the monarch abandoning his sorrows acquired with his wife the highest fruit of meritorious action in the Parva. Vidura having leaned on, leaned on virtue of all his life attained the most meritorious state. The learned son of Gavalgana, Sanjaya, also of passions under control and foremost of ministers, attained in this parva up to the blessed state. In this Yudhishthira, they just met Narada and heard from him about the extinction of the race of Vrishnis. This is also a wonderful parva called ashramavasa. The number of sections in this is 42, and number of slokas composed by Vyasa, the cognizant of truth, is 1,506. As you know, this parva after this comes mausala of painful incidents. In this, lion-hearted heroes of race of Vrishni with scars of many a field on their bodies oppressed with the curse of Brahmana who, while deprived of reason from drink, impelled by fate, slew each other in the shores of the salt sea, with the erica grass, which in their hands became invested with the fatal attributes of the thunder. In this, both Balarama and Keshava, after causing the extermination of their race, their hour having come, themselves did not rise superior to the sway of all destroying time. In this, Arjuna, the foremost among men, going to Dwaraka, and seeing city destitute of Vrishnis, was much affected and became exceedingly sorry. Then, after the funeral of his maternal uncle Vasudeva, the foremost among the Yadus, he saw the heroes of Yadu race lying stretched in death on the spot where they had been drinking. He then caused a cremation of the bodies of illustrious Krishna and Balarama and the principal members of Vrishni race. Then he was journeying from Dwaraka with women and children, the old and decrepit, the remnants of Yadu race. He was met on the way by heavy calamity. He witnessed also the disgrace of his bow, Gandiva, and the unpropitiousness of his celestial weapon. Seeing all this, Arjuna became despondent and pursuant to Vyasa's advice, where went to Yudhishthira, solicited permission to adopt sannyasa mode of life. This is a 16th parva called mausala. The number of sections is 8. Uh, number of slokas composed by Vyasa, cognizant of truth, is 320. Next is Mahaprasthanika, the 17th. The foremost of men, Pandavas, abdicating their kingdom, went with Draupadi on their journey called Mahaprasthana. In this, they come across Agni, having arrived on the shore of the sea of the red waters. In this, they asked by Agni, Arjuna worshipped him duly, returned the excellent celestial bow called Gandiva. In this, leaving his brothers who dropped one after other, Draupadi also, Yudhishthira went on his journey without looking back on them. The 17th Parva is called Mahaprasthanika. Number of sections in this is three. Number of slokas composed by Vyasa, cognizant of truth, is 320. The Parva that comes after this, you must know, is extraordinary one called Swarga, of celestial incidents. Then, seeing the celestial car came to take him, Yudhishthira, moved by kindness towards the dog that accompanied him, refused to ascend it without his companion. Observing the vows of Yudhishthira's steady adherence to virtue, Dharma, the god of justice, abandoning his canine form, showed himself to the king. Then Yudhishthira, ascending to heaven, felt much pain. Celestial messenger showed him hell by an act of deception. Then Yudhishthira, soul of justice, heard the heart-rendering lamentations of his brothers, abiding in the, in the region under the discipline of Yama. Then Dharma and Indra showed Yudhishthira the region appointed by sinners. Then Yudhishthira, after leaving the human body by a plunge in the celestial Ganges, attained in that region which his acts merited and began to live in joy, respected by Indra and other gods. This is the 18th Parvas narrated by Vyasa. The number of slokas composed Vastastic aesthetics by great Rishi in this is 209. The above contents are 18 Parvas. Appendix Khila and Harivansha are Bhavishya. The number of slokas contained in Harivansha is 12,000. The contents of the section Parva Sangraha, so they continued. 18 Akshohinis of the troops came together for battle. The encounter that ensued was terrible, lasted for 18 days. He who knows the four Vedas with Angas and Upanishads does not know the history. Bharata cannot be regarded as wise. Vyasa, of immeasurable intelligence, has spoken the Mahabharata as treatise of Artha on Dharma and on Kama. Those who have listened to the history can never, uh, never bear to listen to others, as indeed though they who have listened to the sweet voice of male cuckoo, can never hear the dissonance of crow cawing. As the formation of three worlds proceeded from the five elements, so do inspirations of all poets proceed from this excellent composition. O a Brahmin, as a four kinds of creatures, viviparous, oviparous, born of hot moisture and vegetables, are dependent on space for their existence. So also Puranas depend on the history, as all the senses depend on their exercise upon the various modification of mind. So do all acts and moral qualifiers depend on this treatise. There is not a story current in this world, but both depend on the history, even as body upon the food it takes it. All the poets cherish Bharata, even as servants desirous preferment always attend upon masters of good lineage. Even as a blessed domestic ashrama can never be surpassed by three other ashramas, so no poets can surpass poem. Yea, ascetic, shake off all inaction. Let your hearts be fixed on virtue, for virtue is the one only friend of him that has gone to the other world. Even the most intelligent, by cherishing wealth, wives can never make this their own, nor the possessions lasting. The Bharata uttered by the lips of Dvaipayana is without a parallel. It is virtue itself and sacred. It destroys sin, produces good. He that listens to it while it is being recited has no need of bath in the sacred waters of Pushkara. A Brahmana, whatever sins he may commit during the day through his senses, he is freed from all by reading the Bharata in the evening. Whatever sins may be committed also in the night by deeds, words, or mind, he is freed from all the sins by reading Bharata in the first twilight. He that gives 100 kine with horns mounted with gold to a Brahmana well posted up in the Vedas and the branches of learning, he daily listens to sacred narrations of Bharata, acquires equal merit. As the wide ocean is easily passable by men having ships, so is extensive history of these great excellences and uh, deep import with the help of this chapter called Parva Sangraha. This ends a section of Parva Sangraha of Adi Parva of the blessed Mahabharata. Next is Posha Parva, which I will do it in another stream.